When being introduced to Kant's ethical theory for the first time, it can appear a bit confusing, a bit complicated, and it doesn't help that every step of the way you're introduced to new terminology like deontology or duty or goodwill or maxims or the categorical and hypothetical imperatives. 3 formulas that all say different things but apparently mean the same thing, and this can be a bit overwhelming at first. So this is the first of a series of videos where we're going to explain all of those things I've just mentioned, but in this first video I want to have a look I want to get a greater understanding of where Kant is coming from, because once you understand where he's coming from and realise that actually he makes some good points, and then you're kind of like, oh, okay, this isn't just a whole load of like confusing nonsense. Actually, he's got quite a good idea here, a good moral theory. Maybe we should pay more attention to it. So there's 2 things I want to point out, and we're going to look at how Kant might criticise utilitarianism, because utilitarianism, it seems like a rather attractive theory at first, and then you have a look at a closer look, and actually it's got some big problems. So remember, utilitarianism is a consequentialist moral theory, and a consequentialist moral theory judges the rightness or wrongness of an action by the consequences that it produces, and utilitarianism understands the best consequences as those that maximise pleasure and minimise pain. Now, according to standard utilitarianism, imagine you have a situation where 2 people are giving money to charity, and one of them is doing it for entirely selfish reasons, selfish motives. So they're giving money to charity because it makes themselves look better, and the other person is doing it for far more like pure good reasons, like they care about the cause, say. And now imagine that the consequences of both actions are the same, because say they're giving the same amount of money, say, and utilitarianism will just look at it and go, well, that's good, like they're both doing good things, the consequences are good in both situations, so it has no sort of more ethical evaluation to say about that. Now that may strike us as a little bit strange, and it certainly strikes Kant as strange, because since when has being selfish been moral? Like, you don't think, oh yeah, that's great, that selfish person over there, he's doing a great job. That doesn't seem to make sense, but utilitarianism, it has that implication, and Kant thinks that is wrong. But this seems like a good point, like selfish, that being selfish is not moral. And in fact, what this selfish person is doing is they're using this situation for their own advantage. So they're like, this person in poverty, say, that I'm giving money to, I'm going to use that situation, I'm going to use that poor person in order to advance myself. That doesn't seem good. Utilitarianism might say that it is. Kant says no. Another well-known criticism of standard utilitarianism is when you have like 5 patients that all need an organ transplant in a hospital, and the hospital doesn't have any organs, but there's a healthy gentleman who sat in the waiting room, and he has a great set of organs. What they could do is they could just kill him, take his organs and divide them up and give them all to the patients, saving their lives, which is a net saving of 4 lives. And utilitarianism looks at this and thinks, yeah, that might be a good idea, maybe we should do that. And, obviously we're all a bit like, well, that sounds strange, that's clearly not an ethical thing to do. So utilitarians, they might fiddle around with the theory until they get the right results. So raw utilitarians come along and say, well, actually, we should have general rules that, when followed, would typically maximise pleasure. And clearly a society in which you had to live in fear, going to visit someone in hospital because you might get killed, wouldn't be a good one. So we could have rules that protect, like, innocent lives and things like that. And a preference utilitarian might come along and say, well, actually, that isn't, in keeping with their preferences and their desires, so maybe we shouldn't do that. But Kant will look at all of this sort of mess that's happening and just think, well, look, if we're just going to fiddle around with our theories until we get the right results, like, that doesn't really seem like, it almost seems like we're guessing until we get something that we're happy with. Why don't we just say, here's an idea, why don't we just say that we should treat other people with respect? Because, and this is what Kant will say, he will say that they are free, rational agents, and as a result, they have inherent dignity that deserves respect. And we should respect everyone because they are free, autonomous, rational agents. And this is encapsulated by his formula of the end in itself, which basically means we should treat people as ends in themselves and not as a means to an end, which basically does just mean respecting them. And surely killing innocent people in a waiting room, that isn't respecting them, that's not treating them as an ends in themselves. Now remember, utilitarianism, that doesn't really care about treating people with respect. That's not inherent in utilitarianism at all. Utilitarianism only cares about respecting other people insofar as it maximizes happiness. And in situations where it doesn't maximize happiness, utilitarians are quite happy to not respect another person. Okay, so those are two criticisms of utilitarianism and what Kant might say. In the next video, we'll look at what it means to say that his theory is deontological, which is basically just that the rightness or wrongness of the action is determined by the action itself and not the consequences. And we'll see that he grounds his moral theory not in consequences or in happiness, but he grounds it in reason. So we'll have a look at that in the next video. See you there. Thanks for watching.